This southern section of the Adriatic pilot starts at Brac, the biggest island in Dalmatia and the highest of all Croatian isles. With the 780-metre-high Mount Bisevo, the famed Golden Point beach at Bol, some score of picturesque villages with its olive groves, quarries and scenic interior, Bol more than deserves a visit. Let's take a cruise round the northern coast from Supetar to the east in search of pretty bays and spots for rest and recreation. Supetar is the capital of Brac and the ferry port for Split. If you sail in during the season, in spite of the long ferry quay and the little harbour with its many moorings, it's possible the summer crush will force you to tie up alongside some vessels that came in before you. All in all, Supetar is a touristy place, and that's how you have to look at it. The hotel complex with fine beaches lies around St Nicholas's Point, and there is the usual fun and nightlife infrastructure in the vicinity. In the city itself, take a walk along the vivid and bustling quayside and the square in front of St Peter's. But let's move on, because there are still lots more pleasant surprises in store on our 175-kilometre-long cruise around the islands. A 2-mile voyage to the east, in a cove before a woody point with a lighthouse, is Splitska Harbour, where you can tie up alongside 2 prominent jetties with depths of 4 and 3 metres, with the caveat that this is a fair weather mooring only. A bit less than a mile's sailing, the new lighthouse shows the way to the pretty fishing village of Postira, where one can tie up at one of 2 piers with depths of between 2 and 3 metres. After that you can obtain excellent olive oil at the local market or directly from the producers, or drop in at the 4-kilometre distant Dol, where the rustic atmosphere of Tony's Tavern provides first-class barbecues. Sailing eastwards, stop and have a swim in Lovrečina Bay with its pretty sandy beach, but watch out for the exceptional shallows, and then go right on to the next lighthouse, which signals the relatively sheltered harbour of the appealing village of Pučišće. The essentially Mediterranean feel of this amphitheatre-shaped town, quarrying and cutting centre for the famed Brac stone, makes it worthwhile dropping anchor and having a look round. For yachtsmen, charming 3-pronged Luka Cove is a must-see. This good haven offers 3 to 5 metres of water for anchoring. The pretty port of Povlja makes up for its exposure to the Bora with an impressive array of architectural features and a fine bathing place below the lighthouse. While on the way to the eastern point of Laščatna, it is worth dropping anchor and having a swim in pretty Voščića Bay. Behind the point lies Ratovčica Bay, fine for both anchoring and swimming, after which the route takes us to Šumartin, the easternmost and youngest settlement in Brac. Setting off along the southern shore of Brac from Šumartin towards the west, we'll sail along a relatively straight coast to the first island dream point destination, popular Bol. If you're in luck, you'll find a place along the eastern pier of Bol Harbour, but in fair weather it's less trouble to drop anchor on the eastern or western side of the well-known Golden Point, which incessantly changes its shape under the influence of winds and currents. When you're tired of swimming and using the sports facilities, give some time to Bol, where in the daytime one ought to see the Dominican monastery, the local marketplace and the cooperative winery, and in the event, the Gusht Tavern, the outdoor cinema, some of the many cafes, while the younger set is sure to want to take the electric train to the Kodštinca disco. Let's now sail westward along the shore that Brac people with good reason call the beach, and stop a moment in little Hvarska Cove, where in fair weather you can anchor off a pretty little beach. On the way west you'll come across a string of attractive little bays like Blatca, Krušica, Smrka and Maslinova, and after that Lučica, which, with a large number of inlets, is a good haven from wind and high seas. Let's have a peek for an instant at a pleasant anchorage in Osibova Bay, and then, through Splitska Vrata, go on to one of the prettiest places on the coast, Milna, where, deep inside the bay, you'll be pleasantly surprised by the only marina on Brac, by the Mediterranean feel of things, the long quay, a Baroque church, the steps in front of the Sorgat Loggia, and other motifs with eye appeal. Sailing northwards from Milna, we'll come upon the little port of Bobovišća, an anchorage and a jetty with two small woody inlets and the alluring Gligov Castle. If we go onwards via Stipanska and the Gomelica Point, we'll come to Sudivan Harbour, some 2 miles from Supetar, where we began our Brac voyage. Nevertheless, you won't know Brac the way it deserves unless you look into its vernacular interior. Right up to the 15th century, for fear of Turkish and other marauders, the life of the island was lived in the interior, which still has the most to say about the history of the island, one of the few in the Adriatic where, for centuries, farmers and shepherds outnumbered fishermen and sailors. The original forms of Mediterranean dwellings also call to mind the tempestuous times of old, as do the classical and medieval monuments scattered in the interior of the island. One shouldn't leave Brac without a visit to picturesque Logishća in the west, the towns of Nerežišće and Prasnica in the centre, charming Skrip in the vicinity of the northern coast, and vernacular Murvica close to Bol. A trip to Mount Videvo has a special feel about it, with the dense shade of Aleppo pines along the road and a fabulous view of neighbouring Hvar from the peak. Then gourmets can try traditional meat delicacies in the Vladimir Nazor restaurant, like vitalac, an old Bracian way of treating lamb tripes.